How come my sisters are always so happy? They excel in sports. They share so much in common, while I look nothing like them. I am a boy and cannot roll tongue like they do. Not to mention that I'm an idiot in sports. How can I believe that we are really triplets? Maybe I was just adopted and not mom and dad's real child. In fact, I've tried to gather up my courage to confront mom and dad and ask them why I'm not like my sisters. Mom, how come I'm so different from my sisters? I know that my sisters are blood group A, same as you and Dad. But me? I'm a group O. Am I really your son?
I'd like to let you know that the DNA fingerprinting can accurately determine the identity of an organism. The DNA paternity test is one of its applications.
DNA paternity test? Maybe this test would help me find out if I'm really a triplet with my sisters. And if I'm really born of mom and dad, I must go. I must go find Dr. Lo. She must be able to help.
This is amazing! How come there's so many twins here?
Institute of Genomic Medicine. I'm here to look for Dr. Lo. She can help me find out if we're really triplets.
If we're really triplets? What are you talking about?
I need to know if I'm just adopted and simply an outsider of the same age as you guys.
Morning. Are you here for Dr. Lo?
Yes.
Follow us.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lo.
Hi, I'm Sabrina. Hi, my name's Sydney.
I'm Ryan.
You want to find out if you're really triplets? You want to know if you're really your parents' son? I can help you resolve these puzzles. But my help comes with a condition. You have to complete 3 secret missions for me.
Like secret agents? Sure, that sounds fun.
I'm going to tell you information that is really important to us human beings that can help you complete the missions. Have you heard of DNA?
Oh, sure. In those Korean soap operas, they are always taking the hair of the amnesiac protagonist for DNA testing. And they always find out that he's a son of some super rich family.
Do you know what DNA stands for?
Is it something like oxy? Something acid? Something, right?
Well, it's deoxyribonucleic acid.
So, what does DNA have to do with our problems?
Just follow me.
So, what are we doing here?
Well, take a seat. DNA is the genetic material that children inherit from their parents. DNA is coded with instructions that control cellular activities and determine characteristics or traits of an organism. All traits of our bodies, such as whether we have straight or curly hair, have freckles, or whether we can roll our tongue, are determined by DNA. So you tell me, is DNA relevant to what you want to find out?
DNA, heredity, traits. Oh, it's so confusing.
You mentioned that DNA can determine our traits. Where can DNA be found?
To find out more about DNA, we need to start from cells. Everyone knows that our body is made up of trillions of cells. The nuclei of cells contain something called chromosomes. What is a chromosome then? What does it have anything to do with DNA? Well, DNA could be found inside chromosomes. Gene that we always talk about is actually a small segment of DNA on a chromosome. It is the basic unit of genetic inheritance. The cells of different organisms contain different numbers of chromosomes, which usually come in pairs.
Don't be big, Susanna. Stop it. You're dead. Heck you. I want to peck you because you're being so
Okay, let me have a guess here. We have an elephant, an eagle, and a dog here.
Bingo!
Okay. For example, there are 46 chromosomes in a human cell, or we may say 23 pairs of chromosomes. But the cells of other organisms own a different number of chromosomes. For example, there are 20 pairs for mice, 39 pairs for dogs, and 127 pairs for shrimp. That is, the number of chromosomes in the cells of a specific organism is fixed. Here you can see the 23 pairs of chromosomes that can be found in human cells. In each pair, one strand of chromosome comes from the father, and the other comes from the mother. One of the 23 pairs of chromosomes is the sex chromosome that determines sex. If both the chromosomes are the X chromosome, then the person will be a female. If one strand is X and the other is Y, then the person will be a male. Have you heard about amniocentesis? This is a medical procedure used in prenatal diagnosis. A small amount of amniotic fluid, which contains cells of the fetus, is collected from the mother's uterus. The number of chromosomes inside the fetus cells is counted to see whether the baby will develop certain genetic disorder like Down syndrome.
I have a question. Does every cell in our body contain 23 pairs of chromosomes?
Good question. The situation is different for sperms and eggs. Chromosomes in normal body cells come in pairs. There are 2 sets of chromosomes in a normal body cell. However, sperms and eggs only get 1 set of chromosomes respectively. Once the sperm fuses with the egg, the fertilized egg restores the magic number of 23 pairs of chromosomes, or 46 strands of chromosomes.
This is so amazing! The number of chromosomes in an egg or a sperm is half that in the other cells. Once they're joined, there'll be 23 pairs again, so that the next generation will have the same number of chromosomes as their parents.
That's right. It is an amazing example of constancy in nature. Okay, so now you're done with the mission to make cheesecakes.
Cheesecakes? How does making cheesecakes help us find out if we're really triplets?
Please, taste it.
Yes! Our one has been chilled. It must be very refreshing. Let me taste it. Hey, don't take such a big bite. Why is it so soft? And it doesn't feel as dense as last time. The texture is so different to the cake Mom made for us last time. The cake made by Mom was so fragrant and creamy. Yes, this is too soft. Hey Ryan, can I have a bite of your cake?
Sure.
Yeah, this is the flavor. This is the fragrance and creaminess I was talking about.
Let me take a look. Take a closer look. My recipe doesn't tell me to use food coloring, but yours tells you to add orange food coloring. Of course it is different. Also, take a look at the last step. Mine tells me to bake my cake in the preheated oven for 1 hour, but yours tells you to put it in the fridge for 2 hours. When the processing methods are different, it's natural the cakes will have a different texture.
We'll make delicious cakes according to the steps in the recipes. Ryan made these delicious cheesecakes using this recipe, while Sabrina and Sydney used another recipe and made a cake that is different in terms of taste and color. Actually, DNA is very similar to a recipe. The DNA that belongs to each of us contains different instructions, which makes people develop different traits and thus makes them different. just like the cakes. DNA gives instructions to the cells of organisms, and the cells act accordingly to these instructions, ultimately creating a body with different traits. Take the color of our eyes as an example. If someone has the DNA for the expression of dark brown eyes, then the DNA will instruct the iris of the eyeballs to generate a large amount of melanin to make the eyes appear dark brown. If another person's DNA contains the instructions for the expression of gray eyes, then the DNA will instruct the iris of the eyeballs to generate a smaller amount of melanin to make the eyes appear gray.
Now, I understand. It must mean that my DNA is different from theirs, and therefore my appearance and other characteristics are different from theirs too.
I'm assigning you the next task. Assemble this model for me.
This one?
Yes.
Great! Done! I'm first!
Let's see what you've got. Not bad. Now let me ask you, do you know what this is?
Of course I know that this is DNA. By the way, who would have thought that DNA is so simple?
Of course it's not. What you've done is only a simplified mode. DNA has an extremely complex structure. It is a double helix shape formed of two intertwined chains. It has the shape of a twisted long ladder. We often hear people say that DNA contains genetic information. Where is this information hidden in DNA? It is hidden in the stairs between the double helix in structures called bases. DNA has 4 types of bases, which we represent with the English letters of A, T, G, and C. The structure in the double helix is actually formed from special pairings of these 4 bases. A can only be paired with T, while G can only be paired with C.
Dr. Loy, are we going to do our next task here?
Yes. Well, when we deliver messages, just like English, 26 letters combine to form different words, and these words can create meaningful sentences. The situation of DNA is mostly the same. The base sequence on the DNA gives special instructions that are meaningful to the cells. Here, I have an encoding system for the 26 English letters. In this system, 3 consecutive bases code for an English letter. Here is a segment of a DNA with special base sequence. Try to find the hidden meaning of this segment of DNA using this system.
Let me take a look first. GCA code for K,
ACA code for E, ACA code for E again, and ATT code for P. This means the first word should be keep.
Dr. Learn, we found out the meaning behind this segment of DNA. It is
Keep calm and carry on!
That's right. In this example, 1 English letter corresponds to 3 bases on DNA. When the bases of DNA are arranged in a particular order, a meaningful sentence is created. That's basically what happens in cells. The bases of DNA are arranged in a particular order to give meaningful messages to cells and control various cellular activities and determine the traits of an organism.
Dr. Low, what is heredity?
Heredity is a process by which characteristics are passed on from parents to their children. Now, show me your little fingers. In genetics, these characteristics are called traits. Whether our little fingers are bent or straight is also hereditary. Has any one of you observed that Ryan has the exact same earlobe as your mom and that he has your dad's dimples?
Oh yes, for sure. All relatives and family friends say the same.
You have never seen my parents before. How do you know if I look like them or not?
During reproduction, parents pass on genetic information to their children. Sperm contains half the genetic material of the father, while eggs contain half that of the mother. During reproduction, the sperm fuses with the egg, and the fertilized egg contains the genetic material of both the father and the mother. This is why children inherit certain traits from their parents. Let's take a look at this tree of genetic traits. It presents the inheritance of the shape of the little finger in a certain family. In this family, the father has a bent little finger, and the mother has a straight little finger. In this tree of genetic traits, we can see that the father passed on this trait of having a bent little finger to his son, Chris, while the mother passed on the trait of having a straight little finger to their other son, Michael, and their daughter, Annie. In the second generation, Annie, who has a straight little finger, married Daniel, who has a bent little finger, and gave birth to a daughter, Jenny. We can see that Annie passed on the trait of having a straight little finger to her daughter, Jenny. In genetic inheritance, the children only inherit some traits of their parents. This is why the children will share some similarities with their parents, but they won't be exactly the same. Although siblings receive genetic materials from the same parents, the parents only give half of their genetic information to their children. In this example, 4 poker cards are used to represent the genetic material of a person. This is the genetic material of child A. So what about child B? This is the genetic material of child B.
Is this why siblings are so different?
Yes. This means genetic information that older siblings receive from their parents are not exactly the same as their younger siblings. That is, although traits are passed on generations by generations, variations do exist among individuals of different generations. This is an example of changes manifested in nature.
But this still doesn't explain why I don't look like my sisters. Mom and Dad said that we're triplets born at the same time.
But triplets come in many kinds. Let me show you a video and it may help answer your question.
Now I see. We were developed from the same fertilized egg, and so we share many characteristics.
As for me, even though we were born together, I am from another fertilized egg. That's why I don't look the same.
Bingo! Now you've solved the mystery. In fact, identical triplets are extremely rare.
But how do you know so much about my mother?
What a smart girl! I guess there's no harm telling you the truth. Truth is, your mother and I are good friends. DNA, as a genetic material, allows traits to be passed on from generation to generation. It is as if each cell of humans is a bookcase for 46 cookbooks. Each cookbook is like a chromosome, and each recipe in the cookbook is like a segment of DNA. This is the gene that we always hear about. The words in the recipes are like the base sequence of the DNA. The letters which make up the words are like the bases on the DNA. These recipes control the cellular activities and determine the traits of the body. That is why DNA is truly
The book of life.